All right, get ready to go deep as we take a look at The Breakfast Club.
A total
For
classic.
sure, a movie that, well, I think defined a generation.
It really did. And, it still resonates with audiences.
Definitely, and we are going to unpack all of that today.
Sounds good.
This film, it's pretty amazing how it all takes place in one location, a high school library.
Right. And it's just 5 students.
5 high school students in Saturday detention.
Yep. And each one is like a different stereotype,
Totally, like you've got John Bender,
The criminal.
Claire Standish, the princess,
And there's Brian Johnson, the brain.
Andy Clark, he's the athlete.
And, of course, Allison Reynolds, the basket case.
And you have to remember, this is 1984, so
Oh, yeah. John Hughes just nailed that 80s feeling.
totally, the clothes, the music.
All of it just screams 80s.
But you know what? Beneath all of that 80s stuff,
Yeah.
there's something much deeper.
The emotions, man. The
Well,
emotions.
exactly. Like, these are teenagers.
Trying to figure out who they are.
Where they fit.
It's like Hughes is running a social experiment.
How so?
We'll take these 5 kids, totally different, right, and stick them in detention
For 8 hours.
and just watch what happens.
See how these stereotypes, I don't know, fall apart?
Yeah, exactly. They break down, and ultimately they kind of like transcend them
You start to see the real person.
underneath, right?
Like Bender, he acts all tough,
Yeah.
but then he talks about his home life.
And you realize it's awful, abusive.
And Claire,
The princess.
she seems so perfect, but
There's so much pressure to be perfect.
yeah, she's afraid of disappointing her parents.
The weight of expectations.
And then there's Brian.
The brain.
He's got all this academic
So
pressure,
he's afraid to fail,
and then he admits he's had suicidal thoughts.
which is, wow, heavy stuff.
Yeah, it makes you realize that even the kids who seem to have it all together.
They're struggling too.
Right, and I think it's these moments, these honest, vulnerable moments
Yeah.
that make these characters so relatable.
They're not just like characters,
They're real people.
with real problems.
Then they start to connect, see each other as people.
Not just labels.
Yeah, and then you've got Mr. Vernon.
The principle.
He's like this rigid authority figure.
And he just sees these kids as their stereotypes.
Doesn't even try to see them as individuals.
No, and it's interesting. You see his interactions with Carl, the janitor.
Oh, yeah, and you get a different side of Vernon.
He seems, I don't know, insecure.
Almost threatened by the kids.
Like they challenge his authority.
He says they're the future.
But you get the sense he's not too happy about that future.
There's this tension.
Between authority and rebellion.
Totally. And I think one of the most, pivotal scenes
Yeah.
is when they decide to break out of detention, go to Bender's locker.
So much tension.
Like they almost get caught.
Yeah, heart-stopping.
And Bender, he risks getting caught to help the others.
You see a different side of him there.
He's loyal.
Protected.
It's like you see the complexity of his character.
Totally, and it's those subtle moments.
That make this movie so much more than just a teen comedy.
It's deeper,
They challenge their own ideas about themselves.
about each other.
And then you get that scene where they all open up to each other.
That scene, oh man, it's pure gold.
So raw.
So honest.
It's like they're taking off their masks.
Showing who they really are.
And it's remarkable how the group dynamic changes during that scene.
Oh yeah, Claire, the princess.
She becomes like a leader,
Encouraging the others to open up.
be vulnerable.
And Bender, he softens, especially around Claire,
You see a connection there.
deeper than their social differences.
Like they're realizing their differences aren't that big.
They all share the same fears, insecurities,
It's where the movie's message about breaking down barriers,
finding common ground.
it really shines through.
These 5 kids, they'd never normally hang out,
But they have to confront their prejudices.
see each other as human beings.
It's powerful. A lesson about empathy and understanding.
And even Mr. Vernon, he has his moment of vulnerability,
When he admits to Carl that he's scared of the kids,
scared of what they represent.
it's like he sees them as a reflection of the changing world.
A world he doesn't understand.
The world he can't control.
A generational divide.
And what about Andy, the athlete?
He's wrestling with his father's expectations,
The pressure to succeed.
the fear of disappointing his family,
His transformation is subtle.
but significant.
He starts to question the values he's been taught.
The narrow definition of masculinity.
And he starts to see Allison, the basket case, differently.
He's looking beyond the label.
Seeing the person underneath.
And the way the film uses these 5 different personalities to explore themes of identity, conformity, rebellion.
It's amazing. And it doesn't give you easy answers.
The Breakfast Club doesn't tell you what to think.
It just presents these characters and their struggles.
Makes you draw your own conclusions.
And that's why it's still relevant today.
It sparks conversations, challenges our perceptions.
And we can't forget the music.
The soundtrack is iconic.
From Simple Minds to Carla DeVito.
It captures the mood perfectly.
The angst, the rebellion, the longing for connection.
It's not just background music, it's part of the story.
You hear those songs, you're instantly back in the 80s.
The power of music to evoke memories.
And the film's technical aspects? Hughes uses those long takes.
Especially in that group therapy session.
Creates this sense of intimacy, claustrophobia.
You feel like you're right there in the room with them.
Experiencing their emotions firsthand.
And the lighting, the framing.
It emphasizes their isolation, vulnerability.
Those close-ups, their faces fill the screen.
You can't escape their emotions.
You're forced to confront their pain, their longing.
And the close-ups showcase the talent of the cast.
Oh, yeah, they're phenomenal.
Molly Ringwald as Claire, just perfect.
That mix of confidence and insecurity.
Judd Nelson as Bender, electrifying.
So much energy, charisma.
Anthony Michael Hall as Brian captures that awkwardness, vulnerability.
Emilio Estevez as Andy, Ali Sheedy as Allison. Powerful, understated performances.
They all bring so much depth to their roles.
The chemistry between them is electric.
You believe they're forging this genuine connection.
Even if it's just for a few hours.
The Breakfast Club. It's both a comedy and a drama.
It blends humor and pathos seamlessly.
You laugh, you cry.
It captures the full spectrum of the teenage experience.
And it's so authentic.
It resonates with audiences of all ages.
It speaks to something universal.
The need to belong, to be seen, to be understood.
And it reminds us that sometimes the people who seem most different from us
can be the ones who understand us best.
And that's a message that's just as relevant today as it was in 1984.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back after a quick break.
Back again, still talking The Breakfast Club.
And we're going to be talking about it for a while longer, so much to unpack.
One thing that always gets me is how this film manages to be both funny and, deeply moving.
Oh, yeah, totally. On the one hand, you've got Bender hiding under the table.
Classic Bender.
And that dance scene. Pure 80s energy.
But then Hughes hits you with these emotional moments.
Yeah, those raw, honest confessions.
They just, I don't know, they take your breath away.
It's that mix, that blend of humor and pathos.
It makes it so real, so relatable.
It's like he bottled what it feels like to be a teenager.
All the ups and downs, all the awkwardness.
And we have to talk about the actors.
This cast, oh man.
They are phenomenal. Each one brings so much to their role.
Molly Ringwald, she's just, iconic as Claire.
She's perfect. That struggle to fit in, but also wanting to break free.
And Judd Nelson as Bender, come on.
Talk about a force of nature.
He just owns that role,
Totally. The swagger, the vulnerability.
He's got it all.
And Anthony Michael Hall as Brian.
He really gets to me,
Yeah, he's the heart of the film in a way.
You're rooting for him the whole time.
As he finds his voice, stands up for himself.
You really feel Brian's anxieties.
And Emilio Estevez, Ali Sheedy, they're both amazing too.
As Andy and Allison, they're so good.
They deliver these powerful but understated performances.
The look, a gesture, it's all there.
And the chemistry between the five of them.
Electric.
You totally believe they'd never normally hang out.
They're forming this real connection.
Even if it's just for these few hours.
And, the film is about individuality.
But it also shows that need for connection.
We all want to be understood.
These kids, different backgrounds, different dreams.
But they're all going through the same thing.
Adolescence, angst, confusion.
And they start to see each other as individuals.
Not just members of their clique.
Like when Claire gives Allison that makeover.
And Andy sees her differently.
He's not seeing the basket case anymore.
He sees a real person.
A beautiful, interesting person.
And it's not just romantic connections.
Like Brian and Bender, they become friends.
These two characters who seem so different.
It's those unexpected connections that make this movie so great.
It's like Hughes is saying, hey, we might seem different.
But we can all connect.
If we just look beyond the labels.
And that scene where Brian writes that letter to Mr. Vernon.
Oh man, I love that scene.
They're speaking their truth.
Challenging the assumptions people make about them.
It's cathartic.
They're finding their voice.
And it's a reminder. Young people have a voice.
That they have something to say.
They deserve to be heard.
It's a theme that runs through all of Hughes's films.
He gives his characters agency.
Lets them challenge the status quo.
Fight for their right to be themselves.
It's amazing how The Breakfast Club captures that 80s feeling.
Oh, yeah, the fashion, the music,
but it still feels relevant today.
those themes, social pressure, finding your identity.
Dealing with family, that's timeless.
Every generation goes through that.
It's a story that just keeps resonating.
Speaks to something fundamental about being human.
And John Hughes, he was brilliant.
He just got it, the teenage
He
experience,
captured the humor, the angst.
the rawness of it all,
He understood the complexities of growing up.
the pressure to conform, the desire to be unique.
And his characters, they're so real.
They became these archetypes.
For generations.
Ferris Bueller, the Breakfast Club kids,
Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles.
they all became part of our culture.
Representing that struggle to find your place.
And Hughes's films, they offer hope.
Yeah, adolescence is tough.
But it's also a time of growth,
Self-discovery.
and they remind us you're not alone.
We all have doubts, insecurities.
But it's about finding your people,
Connecting with those who get you.
embracing your true self.
That final scene. Bender walking across the football field.
Fist in the air, a symbol of hope, rebellion.
Breaking free from labels.
He's saying, I'm not conforming.
I'm not defined by your expectations.
I'm my own person.
I'll walk my own path.
A message that's just as important today.
It resonates with anyone who's ever felt like an outsider.
Anyone who's ever dared to be different.
It's a reminder that we choose who we want to be.
Pretty powerful message for a movie about kids in detention.
You know what's amazing? A movie over 40 years old.
And it still feels so relevant.
All right, like it could have been made today.
It's a true classic. It really is.
It goes beyond just being an 80s movie.
Definitely. It's about something bigger.
I think The Breakfast Club, it just nails that whole teenage experience.
Oh, yeah. The awkwardness, the joy, the pain, the confusion.
Like, very few films have ever captured that so well.
It's honest, raw,
It's not afraid to show how messy growing up can be.
but it's also full of heart.
You can't help but root for these kids
Even when they're messing up.
because you see that they're good kids, deep down,
Just trying to figure things out.
like we all are.
Exactly.
And I think that's why it's had such a lasting impact.
People connect with that.
We've all been there, those awkward, confusing years.
It's a reminder you're not alone.
And the movie, it gives you permission to be yourself.
Embrace your flaws. Find your people.
It's about finding your tribe.
And you know what else is cool about this movie?
What's that?
It still starts conversations, makes you think.
It does. It makes you question your own assumptions about people.
People who are different from you.
It's like one of the best things a movie can do.
Make you see the world differently.
Question your own biases.
Realize we're all more alike than different.
We all want the same things.
Exactly. Never judge a book by its cover.
Or a high school student by their clique.
Right, because you never know what's going on beneath the surface.
The Breakfast Club. It's a reminder that we all have a story.
And sometimes the most unexpected people.
Can become your closest friends.
Your greatest allies.
The film celebrates being an individual.
But it also shows how important community is.
It's about finding your voice.
Breaking free from expectations.
Embracing who you are. It's a film that makes you laugh, makes you cry, makes you think.
And it stays with you, even after it's over.
I think we've covered just about everything on The Breakfast Club.
I think so.
It's earned its place as a classic.
Without a doubt.
A film that will be enjoyed for years to come.
I agree.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into The Breakfast Club.
Hope you enjoyed it.
And if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
Or watch it again. It's always worth another watch.
We'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave your comments below.
What are your favorite moments? How has the film impacted you?
And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into classic films.
Thanks for listening.